Hey, this is Chris with another Tire Side Chat. I want to talk about a machine I worked on yesterday. It was an HP all-in-one. Really, well, the customer brought it to me and said that the screen went black and it wouldn't restart. And, well, it did start. It did start. But nothing came up on the screen. And so he gave it to me. He was thinking it needed a screen because he said it was for a company. Someone was using it and the screen went black all of a sudden. They couldn't recover it. And so I guess they just turned it off and said, hey, take it over to Chris and see what he can do. So I got it and I started doing my diagnostics. I did get it to start. It took a long time for it to start up. Of course, it's a Windows 10 machine. Somebody's let that upgrade go through. I don't know why, but people do that. And it did take a long time to start up, and it gave the usual something happened to your PC and diagnosing the problem, and we're checking the hard drive for errors. That should have been my first clue. But I kind of skimmed over that as I was looking at it, because I was working on two other machines at the same time. So sometimes that happens. You get your attention spanning over two or three things, and sometimes you miss something important on the first one. So after about an hour, it started up, and everything looked okay. Very slow still, but not too bad. And so, I started doing my standard cleanup. Started with CCleaner, ran that. Got rid of a fair amount of files, but not nothing ridiculous. A couple gigabytes. Ran Malwarebytes. Had a few. No, it didn't have any. Didn't have any viruses, malware, spyware, anything. And so I thought, that's, this thing's running kind of slow. Maybe maybe the drive's just fragmented. That was my thought. So I started running. I run MyDefrag, MyDefrag, and was looking at it. And sometimes I just, I'm kind of vegging out there, and I'm just watching the defragmenter. and the nice thing about this defragmenter, it's a disk defragmenter, is that it tells you which files it's moving as it's moving them. And so I kept seeing references to C:///, FILE-000. Check. And that was a directory. And I looked under drive C and it wasn't there. And then I remembered what that file directory is. It is the directory created when Chkdsk is called upon to fix a dirty disk. Generally, a dirty disk is caused by, it's not dirty, it just means the file system has some kind of problem with it. And so when Windows detects that, it sets basically what's called the dirty bit, and so that signals that Chkdsk should run on the next system startup. And that's how Windows takes care of file system problems. And so the existence of that particular directory, the file.000 check, indicates that Chkdsk had at some point been run, and furthermore, it shows that there were files that could not be linked back to wherever they were supposed to be. They were on one place on a hard drive, but somebody shut off the machine, and the files lost their link in the file system hierarchy. And so they're kind of what's called orphaned files, and they could not be put back. And so, it's kind of a serious deal. When you see that directory, I'm immediately starting to think bad sector on the hard drive. I'm thinking the hard drive's about to fail. It's going to go bad, or it's in the process of going bad. And so I'm looking at that, and that directory, while MyDefrag is running, is coming up a lot. I mean, it seems like it's every other file, every third file, every fourth file that's being moved. It's like, you got to be kidding me. How can this be? Because, usually you get this directory, and it's got, it might have 10, 20, 30 files in it. It might be a couple megabytes in size. And so I decided to exit out of my defrag and went into the file system to unhide system files. Unfortunately, unhiding the system files does not reveal that directory. So I went to the command line. Oh no, wait a second. It did. I'm sorry. It did reveal that directory, and but it would not let me. Oh, that's right. It was. That's what it was. It wouldn't let me look at it. I clicked on the folder after I'd made it unhidden because it's a system folder, and it said access is denied. That's not great. But then I thought, well, what the heck? Let's just try to delete it, because just because you can't get into it doesn't mean you can't delete it. And so I hit delete, and I watched in utter amazement as the file total in gigabytes counted up to 40 gigabytes of these files. And I'm thinking, of course, now I'm thinking, how is this computer even running with all these files that were on the drive, functioning in some fashion, and now they're in this folder not functioning because the file system doesn't know what, the NTFS file system doesn't know what to do with them, so it had Chkdsk just move them into this folder. Now it occurs to me that it might have been, something to do with the Windows 10 upgrade, but I've never seen that before with the Windows 10 upgrade. So 40 gigabytes of files, and I got tired, really, honestly, of waiting for it to finish counting, because I sat there and watched it for like 25 minutes. I mean, not exclusively, but... And so I'm looking at that. I'm saying, okay, now it's time to just boot off a Windows PE disk, Windows pre-installation environment disk, which is basically just a gussied up DOS disk, truth be known, right? It gives you basic file functionality, doesn't give you any GUI stuff. It's just command prompt, which, I like command prompts. Okay, I want to learn how to do that more. So I went in there and booted that up, typed in C:, went to the C drive. Unfortunately, that directory was not visible. I tried to use the attribute command. I could not make it visible. I said, well, just because I can't see it doesn't mean I can't delete it. I know what the name is, and so I just hit delete, C:, / file check, blah, blah, blah. Put a wildcard after it, and then looked at the delete, command line switches and said, okay, delete all the subdirectories under it, and don't ask if I really want to delete it for each one of those subdirectories. And so I ran that, and it ran, and it ran, and it ran, and it ran some more. It took... I finally, went and did something else, obviously, but it ran literally for 35 minutes to delete all of those file-checked files. Before I ran that command, Windows reported on that drive that it was using 75 gigabytes of files. After I ran that and then rebooted, of course, it showed using 35 gigabytes of files. Wow. 40 gigabytes. I can only assume, I don't know how that happened. That's a lot. More Chkdsk junked files than real files on the machine. I can only assume that whoever is using that machine at that place routinely shuts off the machine using the power button. That's the only thing I can think of. And shuts down the machine or just unplugs it, which that could do it too. I didn't think about that before. Maybe he's got a power strip there with everything plugged in. You just click, done. That's even worse than pushing the power button. But that can really mess up your day. And obviously he's been doing it, or she has been doing it forever, because just the sheer volume of the files. I've never seen it before. Probably might never see it again. And I don't even know how the machine was still running, but it was. But yeah, I think it's just, Windows does have, Chkdsk is a wonderful program, and it can really save your butt sometimes. And it was working overtime on that machine, let me tell you. So, but even even the best programs meet their match someday, and this one finally did, and so finally the machine wouldn't work. Deleted all those files, restarted the machine, ran back through my typical utility run, especially ran the system file checker on boot up, and it did find some errors, but was able to correct them. So, thank goodness. I guess the reason why the machine was still running is that none of the system files had been corrupted, which is amazing to me. I don't know how that happened. Some things are just beyond explaining. But anyway, generally speaking, what would happen if you powered off the machine? If you power it off 10 times, you're likely to get a scrambled file system and your computer won't boot anymore, period. Which is why it's a bad idea. It just makes it, you're asking for trouble. So don't be like this guy or girl who screwed up this machine, and they thought they had to buy a new computer. And it's like, well, no, I just had to take some extra time to clean it up. But I hope I don't see it again. I really don't. But if I do see something like that again, it'll be much easier to deal with. It, that's one of those things you just write down in your logbook, and just like things to remember. Yeah. Too many Chkdsk files. Whoa. Yeah, this is what you do. So, I learned something, and that's good. It's always good to learn something about computers, isn't it? And so that's why I'm sharing it with you. So I think we've gone on long enough. 11:35 we're at. So, yeah, that's going to be it for today. And once again, if you find our videos helpful, please like and subscribe. We appreciate it when you do. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. We'll get back with you, okay? If you need any service on your computer, laptop, tablet, give us a call. 919-693-5580 is our Oxford number. We do have another phone number, 919-518-6649. Both of those numbers, one is my mobile phone number, and the 693 number is forwarded to my mobile phone number, so it doesn't matter which one you call. You get me. How about that? Even people who are just calling to talk to Leah get me, and then I have to say, oh, she'll call you back. That's how it works. Yeah. We should have, when we got mobile phones, we should have gotten Oxford numbers, but we just thought we'd be working in Raleigh. It didn't turn out that way, but that was 5 years ago, and you go to change a phone number, and everybody, we'll just keep it the way it is, and we'll muddle through having calls forwarded. So, anyway, like and subscribe. Really appreciate it when you do. Talk to you later.